In the 21st century vision for learning, learners develop as active partners and enjoy their own learning, in an environment where the traditional subject boundaries and student groupings are blurred, and where extended services embrace the wider school community. With a focus on learning to learn, schools offer greater choices and aim to light sparks rather than fill vessels. Competencies are acquired through extended projects in real and virtual settings. New learning relationships develop, where support is seen as crucial, through advice and guidance, mentoring and coaching. For learners to develop personal, learning and thinking skills, confidence and independence. Learning spaces need to encourage these new approaches. To inspire thinking and promote collaboration, their design and organisation is seen as a key component of the gateways to transforming schools and personalising learning. In some schools, an environment already exists which supports much of this philosophy: the school library. This DVD aims to aid the development of innovative, fit-for-purpose library spaces which can make a real difference to the personal, creative, reading and learning development of children, young people and the wider school community. It also signposts existing documentation, guidelines and organisations which support school libraries.
I think in the 20th century the language was all about delivery. We delivered a curriculum, wisdom was received. In the 21st century, all the success stories have been about helping people to help each other. Google and eBay and YouTube and 1,000 other things, great growth in the voluntary sector. So, how can a library be a place that helps people to help each other? Well, it's not difficult because that's what goes on all the time. But it's stopped being a place of delivery and started to be a place of community and conversation.
At Westfield, one of the things that we're quite keen to stress is that the job of education, the key purpose of education, is to build the capacity of learners as independent learners, able to research, able to find things out for themselves rather than be spoon-fed them by a teacher. Now, in order for that to happen, we believe that the LRC, our library, the key thing about it is that it is the hub of the school. We want it to be the physical hub of the school, right at the centre of things. So it's quite close to the canteen, it's quite close to student receptions, it's right at the centre of the building. We want it to be a social hub. We want it to be a place where students feel that they can come, enjoy themselves, but understand what its core purpose is. We want it to be a hub of the curriculum as well, so it has links through our virtual learning environment to all of the different faculties, and increasingly what we're looking for faculties to do is to use the library to aid study support. And then finally, I think we want it to be a spiritual hub. We want it to be, we want it to infuse the school, which quite often is assessment driven, with an enjoyment of learning, a love of books, a love of research, and again to foster that notion of independence and creativity of thinking.
Well, it helps me develop my skills very broadly. You can look at things in your own time, in your own place, after school and everything. It broadens your mind on what you want. As well as you have IT as well in the library, which also helps extra to yourself. It's all dependent on you. It's not dependent on what the library has. It's dependent on you, what you want and what you want in the library to have.
If we wish to develop a nation of self-motivated, self-actualized individuals, then we must provide the places for developing the independent learning skills required. If we want creative people, we must give them creative places to play. I believe that real learning is personal. We have to do it ourselves. So it's what goes on outside the classroom that makes learners successful, independent learners. And this does and should go on in the learning spaces in our libraries and learning centres. These spaces are about learning first and library operations second. The Saltire Centre is mostly open, flexible space. Within this space we have created a multiplicity of micro-environments using furniture and bespoke structures. All modes from highly interactive engaging group activity to solitary silent study are catered for. I feel that architects need to drop any preconceived ideas about what schools and libraries should be like. There is enormous crossover from other architectural projects, for example office design, that architects can bring to these projects. But visions for learning should be the key drivers.
Information is free, but what's needed is the ability to find a way around that, to navigate it, to narrate it, to build journeys through that information. With so much information, that's an absolutely key skill, and it turns out, of course, no surprise, that that's a skill of librarians, and librarians, above all else, are of the 21st century. And that puts the library absolutely at the heart of learning, and indeed at the heart of learning institutions, in a way that I think we wouldn't have expected. In the 1960s, a librarian looked after the books and kept the noise down. Now they look after learning and keep the spirits up, and it's a whole different role.
The library is a place where you get opportunities to advance your learning above the rest of your classes, and it just helps you really in general with your grades and lesson work and stuff. So it's just a place where you can come, do extra things, in your way, except for the rest of your life really.
Research shows that effective school libraries have a positive impact on a wide range of learning experiences, including motivation and engagement, independence and progression. Libraries support the development of a wide range of research, study and independent learning skills. They have also been found to encourage the disposition of students towards social and individual responsibility. The Colorado studies, quantitative school library impact studies in over 8,000 schools, showed that schools with effective library programs increased reading scores, norm-related standardized tests, and study skills. Qualitative research in over 13,000 Ohio schools confirmed that students perceive that school libraries and librarians play a major role in helping them learn. The 2006 Ofsted report, Good School Libraries Making a Difference to Learning, identifies those factors which help to produce good libraries in schools. Shortage of space was a feature of most of the primary and secondary libraries visited. In primary schools, there was rarely enough room for pupils to browse and carry out research. Few libraries, even new ones, have the space for a full class to work in comfort, or to sit at tables to work while accessing information. Secondary school libraries rarely have enough space for the number of pupils or the range of demands made on them. The Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals, CILIP, has recommended that libraries should be able to seat 10% of a school's students at any one time. It was rare that inspectors visited a school that was able to do this.
Our library is really special because there's a whole range of books, and they're really easy to find. And there's DVDs, computers, and a TV so you can watch it. And there's good atmospheres, and there's lots of colourful displays, and it's really welcoming, and it's really big, and it's not really cramped and everything. We learn lots of new skills in Year 7, things like skimming, scanning, listening, mind mapping, and reading, and learning how to read deeply and everything, and all these new techniques helped us with his work and stuff.
Ofsted visited the library at Batley Girls High School, Visual Arts College. This has been created gradually through imaginative use of space, and the result is a central area surrounded by a honeycomb of breakout rooms. The space seats over 15% of the school population. This guided learning environment supports multiple functions within the extended school day, for individual reading, space for staff to meet and plan, careers advice, a sequential program of cross-curricular information literacy, reading groups and peer support, homework clubs, literary festivals, maths clubs, etc. The students play a major part in running the library and take NVQs in information and library services. They are fully involved in decision-making and feel a powerful ownership of the library space. The challenge is to create inspirational, beautiful new library spaces that will fulfill all these functions and more.
The things I really enjoy about being a student librarian is that it helps you with your confidence and things like that. and there's always people around, and you can always like get to meet different people from different tutor groups, and you also get to meet different teachers when they go past.
Ofsted said the librarian is knowledgeable, well qualified and experienced, and is able to contribute to debate about learning and achievement. The library is clearly at the heart of the school's learning.
It is important at Key Stage 1 as at Key Stage 3 that the foundations of why and what a library is all about and how it's used are laid. So we really need to think about our very youngest children in schools and how we're going to use the library with them and build up their library skills. And what does it say to the children and the young people if the library is in a corridor? It says really that perhaps we don't place enough importance on those, either that set of books or that particular aspect of their learning, to actually accommodate it in a pleasant environment. I think that's important, that the library is situated in a very pleasant environment that's inviting, that you can encourage young people, whether it be 4-year-olds or 14-year-olds, to actually go in and access what's there. I think as well, a book-based library is important as well, particularly when so much emphasis is placed on the internet, various programmes, encyclopedias on CDs and DVDs, etc. And I think it's important that young people balance up where they can find information from and that they don't just rely on one source. So for the future, to make sure that our young people are well-rounded, well-read, and also are very independent in finding information, I think it's crucial that a separate learning environment, study skills area like a library is established in a school.
What we want to do is build places that are inspirational for learning, where as you raise your eyes up you think about something, a little more ambitious than just the desk or the surface in front of you.
The school library space can be central to enabling creative and cultural entitlement. It is the perfect setting for artists and authors, poets and puppeteers to engage and inspire students. Boundaries can be blurred and horizons extended, where museums, archives and community libraries share spaces or extend access.
The librarian helps me to develop my own learning by showing what they know to us. It's not like they keep it behind themselves, like, I know all this but I'm not telling him. You go and see like Mallory Blackman, for example, and it's like you learn things from the librarian. They show you the skills that they've learned throughout the years, and gradually you can pick up the skills as well.
Well, we have quite a few after school clubs. We have a reading club, which I'm part of. There's a puzzle club where it's just like board games and puzzles and stuff, and it's stuff that can like help improve the brain. And there's a homework club as well. It's nice to have someone who works at school who knows, who can help you with your homework.
Where can you bring parents that is full of delight and full of learning, full of excitement? Of course, the library is a great place to do that. And some of our great librarians, who are all desperately undervalued, aren't they? I mean, some of our great librarians, it was like a force field around the building. As kids approached the place, they were kind of dusting themselves down because they knew there was an expectation about the place, an expectation of behaviour and about reflection of scholarship and about not being trivial that was incredibly important.
The library is not a statutory requirement and must compete for a share of the footprint. The presence of an effective library can be viewed as a sensitive indicator of the quality of leadership and management in a school. The DFES self-evaluation toolkits have useful indicators for how well the library accommodation enables learning. These include indicators for size, access, organisation of space for different types of use, furnishings, and health, safety and welfare issues. Consider the unique contribution the library can make and the way a well-designed library space can enable multiple functions and support key government strategies. Factor this into the footprint.
Look, there's no perfect library. There is no exemplar blueprint that I can sort of and say, here it is, build one of these, world, and you'll be fine. And there's a reason for that. Every school exists in a different culture and a different context. And for me, I'd listen to librarians' voices. And if we don't hear the pupil voice, we ignore it absolutely at our peril.
When we were planning the Saltire Centre, we had a continuous programme of involvement. This involved conversations with various groups, roadshows of proposed designs, furniture roadshows, seeking opinions on artwork, and having a continuously open process where people can input ideas. We also issued a small number of disposable cameras and asked students and staff to take photos of things they liked and hated about the campus. I think all of these would work with kids. It has to be about encouraging off-the-wall creativity.
The fourth floor, there's a balcony, and you can go out and sit, and it's quite quiet. Not many people use it, and there's bean bags, and you kind of sit on the ground, and there's wee tables low down, and you can connect your laptop up to the plug and stuff, and it's places to charge your laptop, which is good. And I like how the library's kind of got different sections, and there's a bit where there's like screens on each side to kind of make it more private, so you can just study and just sit in there, and you're not worried about everyone else kind of being around you. You feel like you've got your own little individual kind of booth to study in.
I guess big open spaces are the easiest to reconfigure in different ways. One of the problems for architects is they've got no real idea, if you design a library badly, how much learning will be lost, how much learning will leak out under the doors of opportunity. And I think that the message for architects is, flip, this is really complex. There's probably 25 to 50 variables that make a great library. And if you think there are just 2 or 3 key features that stand out in your library, you will be wrong. It is a really complex thing. And one of those areas is the whole tension between personalisation and people working together. Now, personalisation is not individualisation. Personalisation is about responding to the fact that learners have got different learning styles, they're different people, they've got different emotional intelligences, and they've got different needs at different times. They've got different cultures, they've got different contexts. And what architects need to do to build great libraries is to watch people, really, really watch people. There's no silver bullet that says, if I get this right, I've built the perfect library. Crucially, the library's got to have space, and it's got to be of a decent scale. One of the very clear trends is project-based work. Now, you don't do project-based learning in subject rooms. You do it in places where you can come together and you've got great resources around you. So the library, it's got to be big, but it's got to be at the heart of somewhere that's a really big footprint, and it's a footprint for that more informal, more collegiate again, more collaborative form of learning. And as those trends come, you'll see, I don't think there's a library in Britain that's big enough at the moment, absolutely don't.
In terms of the library, right from the start, we were always going to have the library central to what happens here at the 11 to 14 centre. So as you walk into the academy, the first thing you see is the library. A lot of that hinges on the fact that we've wanted to ensure that young people understand that one of the key skills that they're going to have to learn in their lives is reading, and to try and promote a much higher sense of literacy.
I really like using the library, especially when you just want to really relax and you just want to calm down. So you can pick up any book that you think looks good, then you just read, and when you read, you sort of go into your own world. It's also a good place to do homework and research. Like if you're studying for a test, it's good because they've got lots of information books, not just stories, because I mostly read stories.
If I could change something in our library is quite open. It's quiet in the library, but a lot of noise comes from outside. So I'd probably put some sort of wall, like a glass wall maybe, because then you can still see inside, but it's a bit more quiet and closed off, so it's easier to concentrate and read.
Critically, it was about designing a space that the students were comfortable using. They presented no real kind of barriers to them entering and leaving, but also to keep it really, really open. As you walk in, it's coordinated with the rest of the building. We've got some ICT that's available for use in that area. There's a quiet area that students can use for doing private reading. But I think the key features about our library are the fact that we've got different furniture. What we've done is not go for a kind of one-size-fits-all solution. Students are able to work in groups of 8. They can sit by themselves and read. They can work on stools like a cybercafe style environment. There's comfortable seating. And what we get is is an area that's actually quite dynamic in the sense that it kind of caters for every student's own personal needs. In terms of the ICT, the intention has always been that the ICT can freely move between the classrooms and the library environment. When the students bring the tablets down to the library, what we're creating is a very different kind of environment in terms of how the ICT can be used. Teachers typically don't teach in that area. What they do is they support those students while they work on things like tablet PCs. So the ICT vision does actually sit hand in hand with what we try to promote in terms of learning spaces. And the library is one of our best learning spaces. We have several different kinds of groupings in the school in terms of how students are organised. We have a vertical tutoring system. We've just started our brand new curriculum, which is based on a model that's come from Queensland, Australia. And what this model essentially consists of is around 70-75 students in one group, and they are always in that group for most of their learning. So around 80% of their learning is done within that same group. Now, this group is called a pod. So a pod works by looking at focused themes. So there are 5 themes to cover throughout the year. Now the library is an excellent area for us to work with those large groups of students. Now the library's been open for a year, and interestingly our year 8 students on the whole do a lot more reading.
It's a curious world that we're in, that there are lots and lots of projects that value children's work, that value joined up design for schools, and some fabulous stuff with children working with designers, schoolworks, some really good strategies for listening to children and capturing their voices and getting information back. But one of the most obvious things that libraries don't do but should do is to build that catalogue of children's excellent work of the previous generations.
Building schools for the future is about fostering learning relationships. Some students use the safe haven of the library to create a personalised space. For many years, librarians have been viewed neither as teacher nor parent, and have evolved successful strategies of learning together with students. They already play a significant role at transition. In this setting, students flourish, provide peer support, develop and mature. A real challenge for libraries is how to be inclusive and reach out to every student, whether gifted and talented, dyslexic, visually or hearing impaired, or with special educational needs. It's important the space accommodates all, and there is access to oral, visual and interactive digital media.
I don't think I would have got to this point where I'm a very good achiever if I didn't have a library who could help me and assist me and show me how and why and teach me and just generally help me learn and make learning enjoyable.
What we can't anticipate are some of the pedagogies. Dressing our stage for different performances is what we're going to be doing with our libraries.
In the Saltire Centre, we use design, graphics and the psychology of colour to affect learner mood and behaviour. We also used audio signing to remind users of the building of the expectations for use of each floor. I think the built environment is fundamental in a number of ways. It does affect our emotional state and sends subtle messages to those who use a building about who they are and what the organisation is about. We can also use the environment to play to the range of multiple intelligences and learning styles that pupils have. I think that we have to be careful that what we need to do with each project is to make sure that we do not disable the future. Technology is a crucial component of the building, but should be embedded as far as possible. The focus should be on technology infrastructure as future-proof as possible.
A lot of effort went into considering acoustics in the building to safeguard the upper floors where we want to have quieter study. We also have a system of sound baffle boards rather than a false ceiling to break up sound across the floors. Igloos pods are, we had a recent visitor from Oman who referred to them as Bedouin tents, so multicultural and multifunctional. The pods, we only have 3 pods to the building, and they were designed to be semi-private consultation areas for staff to work with students primarily. But as soon as we opened, the students took them over, and university staff will use them for meetings and students will use them for group study. We're running of well over 95% capacity for about 6 months of the year, which is unknown in academic libraries these days. But there are pressures on the building because it's so popular. People complain about not being able to get quiet study, not being able to get group study, and not being able to get a computer. And that's something that we have to deal with. That's our biggest challenge right now, is meeting the increased demand that we've created.
In a world where some of the social foundations no longer exist, many young people need a place and person they can rely on. The library can be one of the guided learning environments, a safe space to welcome, inspire, guide and enable each young person to achieve his or her personal, creative and learning potential.
Where is the one place in the school where people come together to share and exchange and swap, but do so with an expectation of scholarship, with an expectation of quality, with an expectation of academic ambition? It's the library.
Libraries help you in lots of different ways. I don't think I'd go to a school without a library because it's my main place in the school.